Okay, this video has been in the works for a really long time. Ever since I finished playing all of the Yakuza games, I get this comment a lot and question a lot during my live streams, in my videos, or even on social media. Jess, what's your favorite Yakuza game? Along with, what's your favorite boss fight? Who is your favorite characters? What would you rank the Yakuza games on a list? And that is what this video is about. So today I'm gonna be making a tier list kind of video describing each game, ranking them from my favorite to least favorite, but also giving them like a tier list rank. So we're going from S to D. That's what I'm gonna do. Along with that, I figured it'd be easier to kind of take the most asked questions regarding my favorite Yakuza game, put them all in this list, and so that I can answer for each of them. So I will be answering the following questions for each game. What I liked about the game, what I disliked about the game, who my favorite character is, my favorite theme song, my favorite boss fight, and what part stood out to me in this game. In case you are new on my channel, hello, hi, my name is Jessica, and I have been playing the Yakuza series over the course of last year. I just finished it in January, I believe. So this has been an entire, year of playing this entire saga, and I was so happy to play all these games because I'm such a huge fan of them now. If you're interested in watching my Let's Plays from Yakuza 0 to all the way to Yakuza 7, including Judgment, that's not going to be in this video, but I did play that game as well. I will leave a link in the description to all the playlists, so if you want to watch them, you can go ahead. Okay, now it's past Jess, and I'm gonna open up this package. It just got in the mail, and it's kind of beaten up. What I mean by that is, what the hell happened, Canada Post? What the heck? So I got an email a couple of weeks ago from some representatives for Sega. They said they wanted to send me something to celebrate the release of Yakuza 7 or Yakuza Like a Dragon on the PS5. Now it's on the PS5, so if you want to play it on the PS5, you can go ahead and do that. I also know that if you bought it on the PS4, you can upgrade it for free on the PS5, so you can get a magical update. When I get a PS5, whenever I can get one, I will definitely play it again. I was told that they just wanted to send me something to celebrate it. They didn't say exactly what it was going to be because they said they wanted to be surprised. So I'm very excited. I don't really know what it is. Ooh, what the hell is in here? Okay, I got a letter. I feel like I should read this first. Here it is. I don't know if you guys can see that, but look at the Ichiban! The letter says, they say heroes aren't born, they're made, and Sega and RGG Studios are giving you the opportunity to become one of some special cosplay items. Become one with some special cosplay items based on the launch of Yakuza Like a Dragon for PS5. The game tells the story of Ichiban Kasuga, a low-ranking grunt of the low-ranking Yakuza family in Tokyo. Faces an 18-year prison sentence after taking the fall for a crime he did not commit. Never losing faith, he loyally serves his time and returns to society to discover that no one was waiting for him outside, and his clan has been destroyed by the man he respected most. We've included some fun cosplay items based on Ichiban, including a wig styled after his trademark spiky hair. Spicy hair, I mean it's spicy too. His stylish chain necklace and a red bucket hat theme for one of the alternate costumes. Oh my god, I know which one it is! Oh my god, wait, I know which one it is. Yakuza Like a Dragon is available on PS5 on March 2nd, so it's out now if you want to grab it right now. So thank you to Sega and 47 for reaching out to me and sending it. Oh my god, I know exactly which outfit it is. I'm excited because I think this is the coolest one that Ichiban has. I got a wig. I have a wig. No fucking way, that's so funny. I actually have a wig for him. I've gotten PR packages before, but never have I ever gotten a PR package where it's like, this is for cosplay, here's a wig. Oh my god, yo, I have to put this on. You guys know what it is, right? You guys know exactly what outfit this is, right? When they said it represents one of his alternate outfits with a red bucket hat, I think we all know which one it is. It's his freaking breaker outfit. All right, this is what I look like. I need to style the wig, but I don't really have time at the moment. You see this? This is so fucking cool. Now I officially look like Ichiban, kind of, when he's in the breaker outfit. If only I knew how to break it. This is so cool. Thank you so much. All right, we're gonna start off with my favorite game out of the entire series, and that is Yakuza 0. Yakuza 0 was the first game that I started with when I started this series, but it ultimately became my favorite game, and there's a lot of reasons for that. Also, excuse me if I look off camera, it's because I'm looking at the notes that I wrote down for all of this, so just, you know. What did I like about this game? It's the introduction to the Yakuza world, and I thought it was perfect. I felt like if I did this in chronological order, I think a lot of the characters that I ended up liking, I would not like. I was so interested in seeing how each of the characters were built basically from nothing to becoming how the characters they are by the end of the series. Kiryu's introduction, he's not a hero yet, nor is he like the protagonist yet. He's still a very young and naive person here, and I appreciate the build-up that they had, not even for the series, just in general for this game, because you can tell that he's just a lackey, basically. That's all he was in the start of Yakuza 0, and by the end of it, he started learning more about the Yakuza world, because I think Kiryu's the type of character jumped into something he didn't realize was gonna affect him later on, and I'm gonna touch on that a little bit later. On the other side, we have Majima, and Majima's introduction was amazing, just because we see him struggling in this. He's trying to find redemption. I thought the way that he went about everything with his storyline, beautiful, basically. Like, I loved how they developed his character from here. And not knowing who he was, like not knowing anything about Majima whatsoever, I realized how important it was that RGG made this game for Majima. Not just for Majima, but for Majima's character before he became the Mad Dog. I think it's so important we see him like this, because in the other games, he's just the crazy dude who follows Kiryu around, and he's basically one of the heroes of the stories too. But here he's a fallen hero. We also get to know his background, like what happened to him, why he's struggling so much, why he wants to prove that he's basically worth it to the Tojo clan. And also, this is gonna be funny, and I don't think I would have liked Majima as much as I do. Like, I love him as a character. Like, just to prove it right now, my mouse pad is Majima, okay? I love him. His character was so interesting to me in Zero, and if I did not play Zero first, I would not like Majima the way I do now, because my first introduction of Majima would be him beating that guy in the street in Yakuza 1, you know what I mean? And I would get like a really like, ugh. It's also telling that Majima's character has heart to it. And what I mean by that is we see him struggle, be humane, be a person, rather than this unstoppable thing that we know him as in the series. So that's why I appreciate Zero a lot, and his struggles throughout this entire game. All right, the next question I'm gonna answer for Yakuza 0 is, what did I dislike about this game? I feel like it needed more balance, because I felt like I was too invested in Majima's side rather than Kiryu's, rather than like, you know, I both of them equally. Not saying that I didn't find Kiryu's storyline interesting, because it still connects to Majima by the end of it, but I feel like I was more invested in Majima's because it was more interesting to me. Also, I felt a little, maybe I'm gonna get hate for this, but I felt a little underwhelmed with Shibusawa being the final boss. I don't know why. Like, I understand it was also to build up Kiryu as being the dragon of Dojima and all of that. I feel like I would rather have like Kuze, even Awano as the final boss, because Kuze was an interesting boss. He pissed me off, but I actually really loved his character and his boss battles. I thought they were way more interesting than Shibusawa. Shibusawa was kind of like, oh, that's the dude, he's really ripped, I'm sure he's very strong, but we didn't really get to see him that often like the other two. So I would rather have Kuze as the final battle than Shibusawa. That's just my opinion though. Moving on to the next question, and it is, who is my favorite character? It's Majima. Goto Majima is my favorite character in Zero, and introduction into Yakuza. I just loved him so much. The second that he came on to the stage during the nightclub scene, oh my god, I fell in love with him already. He's so charming, and it was just so nice to see him that way. I don't know, I have a lot of feelings towards characters where they're struggling a lot, like they have like a really sad backstory, and that's why majority of my favorite characters are villains. But I'm very attracted to those characters because to me they're more realistic than the characters who have everything, who are very powerful and like yada yada, all that stuff. Like they're great too, but I prefer the ones that are struggling. My favorite theme song from Yakuza 0 is Pledge of Demon, and I think that's like everybody's favorite theme song as well. That's Kuze's boss beat, a battle theme where you fight him in the tunnel, in the sewers. Oh my god, I love that theme so much. I can't even describe like how much I love that theme just because of the build up towards it. I love it. It's so good. It fits it perfectly and also fits what Kuze was trying to explain to Kiryu during that scene as well. It holds a lot of anger and it expresses Kuze's character and his frustration, but also the fact that he has a lot of frustration towards Kiryu because he feels like Kiryu is someone who doesn't understand, you know, what's going on. And Kuze was always constantly getting bested, constantly getting beaten, but he never stopped. He kept getting up and kept going. And that's kind of what I admire about Kuze. Like, again, he's an asshole. He's so annoying to fight, but I appreciate him constantly getting back up and constantly going, even though he knows like he's kind of like the joke of the group. Like if you compare him to Owano and Shibusawa, all the other captains, everybody like makes fun of Kuze, and he knows that too. But I admire him and respect him for how much he, I guess, struggles and also like uses that struggle as a strength. My favorite boss battle, funny enough, is Nishintani. I liked his character, I liked his boss battle, and I find it funny that he's pretty much a match for Majima. And I know a lot of people were mentioning in my comment section, that's probably where Majima found his inspiration for the Mad Dog persona, was from Nishitani, because of how like crazy, like, you know, how he was acting. We got a glimpse of the real him after we finished him, unfortunately, before he died. It's the same feeling I got from Majima. Whenever he breaks his Mad Dog persona, he becomes this like very vulnerable guy. So I see that similarity between them, and I guess that's why I liked him. I enjoyed the challenge of the fight because he was also using knives and my dude was spinning around, and I'm like, damn, this is what it's like to fight Majima. You know what I mean? So like, it was cool. That was my first taste of fighting Majima until I got into the other Yakuza games when you were playing as Kiryu. Then you really have to fight Majima. I really wish he survived though, because I thought he was such a good character, you know? There's a lot of characters that die in this series, and I'm like, damn, I really wish they had more screen time or they didn't have to die. Nishintani was definitely one of them where I wish he didn't have to be killed. So the part that stood out to me in Yakuza 0 was when Majima decided not to kill Makoto, because he was ordered to kill someone named, you know, Makoto, and the fact that it was his in back into the Tojo family, and Majima was expressing how he will do whatever it takes to make sure that he can get back into the family, and whatever they asked of him, he didn't care. But obviously he cared deep down inside. He was struggling to be like, I have to kill someone? No big deal. He was just acting all tough, but obviously it bothered him a lot. Seeing him show compassion to someone that he didn't know was, I think, the moment that I knew Majima's character was gonna be a really good one. He hides his true feelings a lot, and I feel like he's someone who will let people walk all over him if it means that he can help them and make them happy. I don't know the best way to describe it, but that's the way I see it. It's kind of like how I saw Kuze, like he always knows he's gonna get fucked over, but it doesn't matter, he's gonna keep going. That's kind of the mentality I see with Majima, but just on a different side. There's a lot of pain in Majima's past, and this scene specifically where he just decides not to and decides to help her, and then he ends up falling in love with her. Like, that's so fucking sad, man. And then you get to his DLC and he finally has closure. I was so happy for him that he had closure in Yakuza 2 in the DLC there. I appreciate the way that they wrote this. You know, they could have gone a different way, but it's just nice that we see the Yakuza characters as very brutal lifestyle, brutal people, obviously, because it's like a mob, a gang basically. But it's nice that RGG is able to take scenarios where they're completely fucked up, like they're really, really fucked up, but make it show humanity through these characters, and this was Majima's humanity moment. So overall, I would rank this game an S tier, and it's because it's my favorite. So yeah, that's my ranking for it. I give this an S tier game. I also want to add too is I wish that we had more time with Nishikiyama because it's gonna talk into the next one. So my second favorite game out of everything, I know I'm gonna get flack for this too. It's Yakuza 6, The Song of Life. So what did I like about Yakuza 6? I have never, ever felt this much heartbreak and also relief when it came to a video game. There's only a couple that have made me feel this way. Kiryu's story coming full circle from Yakuza 0 to here. I loved how they wrote it because it started off from someone who didn't care about themselves, just wanted to follow someone who they idolized, which is Kazuma, to understanding the consequences of becoming a Yakuza and learning what that means by the end of this game was so beautiful and, like I said, very heartbreaking. The entire game represents Kiryu's acceptance of what he's gone through the entire series, and also giving an opportunity for him to save the one thing that matters to him, and that's his family. To be able to give them a normal life. That's all he wanted in the end, and he was able to do that. I don't know, I still think about it. It's been months since I finished Yakuza 6, but I still think about the ending of that game, how well it was done. So, what did I dislike about this game? I'm gonna be honest, the main storyline, the Yakuza part. I really didn't give a shit about what was going on in Onomichi and, you know, the secret of the Yamano battleship and everything like that. I didn't really care about that, but I understood why they were showing it, because they were also showing Kiryu's, like, PTSD with him and Kazuma, you know? Like, he experienced that as well when he found out his own dad killed his real parents, and, you know, his friends, like Nishiki and Yuri, all of their parents were killed because of him. So, like, I appreciate them showing that, but, like, I didn't really care about the Yamato battleship, and, like, even, like, the main villains for the Yakuza side, I didn't care about them. My favorite character in this game, would it be cheating if I said it's Kiryu himself? Because, like, this is the game that cemented him as my favorite character throughout the entire series. It was always Majima, but this game made it Kiryu. There's so many great characters in this series. Like, honestly, aside from Majima as well, there's so many that were well written, but I can't, like, nobody can match Kiryu, like, my love for him. So I appreciate development that they had throughout each game, how he was constantly running and finally he faced his, you know, past. I connected with his love and pain for Haruka, for Yumi, for Nishiki, for all the characters that he considered friends, like everything that he went through. He's just the best, and, like, that's why I broke down so much at the ending, because I'm like, oh my god, he can never have the life that he actually wants, which is just to raise his kids and his grandson. I still think about it. My man did everything for them and he can't even have a normal life with them. It's so heartbreaking. But also because Kiryu is such a great character, because, like, he's such a dad, but also he's very funny. He's very witty, he's very charming, and he's such a gentleman too. I also appreciate what he says too is very wholesome, so he's such a wholesome character for being this, like, very scary looking Yakuza guy. He's honestly so wholesome. My favorite theme song in this game should be obvious because I mentioned in my Let's Play, Destiny. Destiny is my favorite theme song, and it's the theme song that plays during Somaya's boss battle, his final boss battle. And I'm a sucker for this because it has string instruments, and I enjoy string instruments in soundtracks, so, like, it was really good. I'm gonna mix this into my favorite boss fight, which is Somaya's boss fight. That is my favorite boss fight in this game. I hated his fucking character the moment I saw him. You guys know that when I saw him, I'm like, oh, I hate this fucking guy. But it's ironic because he becomes my favorite boss battle and one of my favorite characters that I've ever encountered in the series. I felt sorry for him by the end because I realized that this dude is just in a similar situation as Kiryu. He's trying to protect his family too. Kiryu's not the only one who has a family, you know? And sure, this guy's done a lot of fucked up things, but at the end of the day, he's a dad too. And he was just trying to make sure his daughter didn't suffer the consequences of his lifestyle. So in the end, Somaya was mirroring Kiryu during that boss battle. That's why it's my favorite boss battle too, not only because like it was an interesting fight and whatever, and my man was carrying a sword and everything like that, but like it's interesting if you see the parallel between those two. They both had determination to do whatever it took, and also in a way to prove themselves that they could protect the ones that they love. So now we're gonna move on to the last question, which is what stood out to me in Yakuza 6? The ending. The ending stood out a lot to me. And I know a lot of people mentioned in the comments that they had some problems about Kiryu not dying. He just kind of like wanders off and disappears. Some people didn't like that, and that's okay if you didn't like that. For me, I enjoyed it because it's showing the ultimate sacrifice of his lesson from the beginning of the series, what Kazuma was trying to show him. You don't know what it means to choose the Yakuza life. And this is the ultimate punishment where he is able to help his family, protect them, but he cannot be with him. That's the punishment that he has to carry, the burden that he has to carry for the rest of his life. He has to show that towards not only his children, his grandson, his also to his friends, and someone he considers a son to himself, and that's Daigo. Wanted to make the Dojima, the Dragon of Dojima name used for good, and he did. He managed to do that. We've watched him push the title away throughout all the games when everyone's like, oh, you're the Dragon of Dojima, and he's like, no, I don't want that. Or when people call him the 4th chairman of the Tojo clan, he's like, no, don't call me that. And he kept pushing and pushing. This is the first time he finally accepts everything for who he is and what he represents. He uses it in the right way, and that's what I appreciate about him. His letter to Daigo was the moment that, oh my god, it's so painful to think about. Like, even now I'm thinking about it and I'm getting sad. I was so taken aback when he called him son and was like, I'm sorry that I didn't help you. Daigo's character, you guys know I love Daigo. My guy was so lonely throughout this entire series too. And he was also struggling because he didn't know how to lead the Tojo clan. Because it's sad because Daigo's didn't want this either. He's like another character who didn't want this title, who didn't want to lead. Also, he kept pushing it away in Yakuza 2. He's always like, no, I don't want this. He was exactly like Kiryu. The fact that Kiryu was able to say sorry to him and make sure that he was taken care of before he disappeared. That's why I broke down, because like, he finally realized like his mistake. He could have helped someone else too. Aside from his own family, he could have helped Daigo, and he realized that. That's why I started bawling, because I'm like, oh my god, he's saying sorry. And then finally we get to the end when Kiryu is just watching his kids teaching Haruto how to walk in Morning Glory, and he just kind of like walks away. That's the saddest fucking thing I've ever seen in my life. And he couldn't even join them. Haruto's the only one who noticed him. And the symbolism of Haruto struggling to walk and then flashing back to Kiryu turning around and walking away. I like that it's showing like even though they're both struggling to move forward, they're still able to do it, because Haruto in the end is able to walk on his own. So was Kiryu. He was able, even though it was hard, he was able to let go and then just move on. How would I rank Yakuza 6? I would give it an A. It would be an S. It's just the Yakuza storyline is the one that kind of like, you know, takes away from it. But it's still one of my favorite games. It doesn't matter, but I give it an A rank. Next, we're gonna move on to Yakuza Kiwami, or I guess Yakuza 1. This is this gets third place into my favorite games. I enjoyed this game a lot, and for many reasons. I enjoy the origins of Kiryu's storyline. This is where, you know, he evolves into the Dragon of Dojima, and also he has one of the most interesting openings to a character, I guess. Like what happens to him with Nishikiyama, Yumi, and like him saving his friends basically. And this was also the moment Kiryu realized the Yakuza life is not for him. Ironically, this is the moment he realized it, and sadly the fall of one of my other favorite characters, Nishikiyama. Watching Nishiki fall into the wrong path was really sad for me, because again, I played Yakuza 0 and I was really attached to the guy, even though we didn't have that many scenes with him, but I was so attached to Nishiki because I'm like, oh, he's Kiryu's best friend, they're brothers, and they like to joke with each other, they make each other very happy. And it broke my heart seeing Nishiki basically like turn into this terrible guy. Because I heard you guys were mentioning in the original game they didn't include those scenes where Nishiki was struggling with the Kazuma family. They didn't show that. They just basically turned him into a bad guy in the original game. This one they show you how he progressed into that guy. So I appreciate that they included that. And it makes it more rounded for Nishi's character arc too, because if they just change it into an asshole, it's kind of like it loses its meaning, you know? So I appreciate them rewriting that and including that in there. This is also the official start of when Kiryu becomes the dad with Haruka. You can see how much Haruka changes Kiryu within the course of the game too, and that's why she's one of my favorites as well. You can even hear like their little banters too. My favorite thing was listening to Kiryu talk to Haruka whenever you're walking across the map. She'll ask a question because she's being all innocent and whatever, and Kiryu will give a really sweet answer, and it's also very wholesome and a teaching moment. Even though I know he's not trying to teach Haruka, he just says it because that's how Kiryu is. I think one of my favorites, Haruka asks like what's his ideal woman. He's like, oh, you like the pretty girls or something like that, and Kiryu's just like, it's not about the looks, it's about what's on the inside. And I'm like, oh my god.
カムロ町って綺麗な女の人がいっぱいいるんだね。
まあな。
おじさんも綺麗な女の人が好き？
綺麗かどうかなんて関係ねえよ。俺は人間を型に当てはめて色眼鏡で見たりはしない。
どういうこと？
男も女も肝心なのは中身だ。お前も付き合う相手を選ぶときは見た目で判断しない方がいい。
覚えとこ。
Like that's the moment where I realized Kiryu has a really big heart. Like I said earlier, he's a wholesome guy. So that's why I loved hearing his banter with Haruka. We see him break down his walls, right? Because he's hurt after what happened with Nishiki, but he was able to open up with Haruka, this little girl, and become the lovable dad that we all know. He's just much more than the Dragon of Dojima is what I'm trying to say. So what I disliked about Yakuza Kiwami, I think it has to be the secret of like where Yumi went and what happened with her. I always knew it was gonna be near the ending we were gonna find out what happened, but I feel like the way that they wrote it, it was kind of like dragging it too much. As in, we'll get to a point where we almost figure out what's gonna happen, but then it cuts off on a cliffhanger and it's like, oh, you can't find out anymore. You're gonna have to start from scratch again. And then we do that again, and then it reaches a dead end, and then we don't find out what happens to her. I just kind of wish they would leave more clues as to what was going on with her, rather than just stopping in the middle of the story and be like, you'll find out later on at the end of the game, don't worry about it. My favorite character in Yakuza Kiwami should be obvious, it's Nishikiyama. I love him, and just like Majima, I'm really glad, like I said, that I played Yakuza first, because if I didn't, I don't think I would love Nishiki as much as I do, and I feel like his character is much more meaningful in Yakuza 1. Now that I played 0, it makes more sense for the story, and it makes the story much more better in my opinion. And like I said, it's nice that they showed him struggling. The reason why he turned into this person was because he was constantly compared to Kiryu while he was gone. His sister was sick. People didn't respect him, and he felt like he couldn't stand up for himself until he made the drastic decision when he snapped and stabbed that guy. That was the saddest thing that I've ever seen, because I'm like, I didn't want that for Nishiki, you know? And it's upsetting that Kiryu wasn't there, because Nishiki wanted to be like Kiryu. I mean, that's the story of his tattoo on his back, right? He's the koi. There's a lot of folktale in Asia, but wants to swim up the stream because it wants to turn into a dragon as well. And it's very fitting for Nishikiyama because he wants to be like Kiryu. You see that in 0. He admires him so much and looks up to him a lot. That when he was gone, he never had that guide anymore. His ambitions went from he wanted to be equal to Kiryu to I want to be better than Kiryu. If Kiryu was around, he would definitely push Nishikiyama in the right direction, help him, uplift him, and make sure nobody picks on him too. You know, because everybody was really hard on Nishiki, and I feel like he's such a soft-spoken guy. Like he was not meant for the Yakuza either, you know what I mean? He's definitely not meant for it. He's too kind for that, and I think that's why it pushed him even further to become a villain. My favorite theme song has got to be Receive You. That's the what started this whole thing, and I love that there's like different variations, and they remixed the Receive You for Kiwami, but I heard the original one. I still think the original one is better. I still like it. I love that it just stuck with Kiryu throughout the games and it evolved for what's going on with the story. And you know, also every other character had a version of Receive You. Majima has his own, Saejima has his own, so I think that's really cool that it stuck around. And it's a classic, like how can you not like Receive You? My favorite boss fight? It has to be Nishikiyama. I mean, I don't know what other boss fight you could say, but Nishi is the ultimate battle in this game. Not only because it made me so more emotional because of Yakuza 0, but the boss fight had a very specific theme, which I would say it's also my favorite aside from Receive You, but I'm gonna explain why. The entire fight, I noticed that Nishikiyama was very conflicted on what he wanted to be. Like, you can clearly see he's fucking angry at Kiryu, but at the same time, you can tell he doesn't know why he's angry. He acts like a straight up villain this entire game and struggle for new power. And like I said, no one respected him, and he had to basically scare people into respecting him and following him and liking him and all of that stuff. When he fights Kiryu, it's like he couldn't do that anymore. He can't scare Kiryu because, again, he's the one person that Nishikiyama looks up to. It's like your older brother, you can't scare him. And obviously Kiryu is not going to be scared of Nishikiyama either. He channeled the next best thing, and this is why I thought it was really random when he brought this up. His jealousy towards Kiryu is what he uses during this boss battle. I always found it random when he was like, "You took Yumi away from me." Obviously, it's no secret. We always knew that Nishiki had a thing for Yumi. They showed that in the early scenes. But I feel like that's not the real reason he was mad at Kiryu. He just used it as an excuse so that he could fight him. That's my opinion. That's the way I see it, though. Going back to why I think the theme song of this boss fight is good is because of the title. It's called For Whose Sake. It's proving that Nishikiyama doesn't really know why the fuck he's fighting Kiryu. He doesn't know why he's there, what his purpose is, and ultimately, he doesn't know what he should be feeling towards Kiryu because, again, he's been gone for 10 plus years. So everything's just kind of coming out all at once, and which is why I said it was random when he was like, "You took Yumi away from me." He felt abandoned through this. And I felt sorry for him because when you see him in Yakuza 0, he's the goofy guy. He's the sweet, goofy guy who's just making jokes, making fun of Kiryu's outfit. And then you see him here and he's just like broken. And that's why I was crying by the end of it because I felt so sorry for him. I think Nishikiyama didn't think he could redeem himself. So he believed that the only way he could is if he sacrificed himself and saving Kiryu. The ending when he shot the bomb. I know he was already shot up and everything like that, but I feel like he didn't need to do that. You know what I mean? If he actually hated Kiryu and wanted revenge on him, he would just let the whole building blow up, you know, and then go along with him. But he sacrifices himself instead. So I feel like that was his way of saying sorry to Kiryu. Now let's move on to the next question, and it is, what part stood out to me? Kiryu meeting Haruka. That scene in the bar where she's holding the gun, that scene specifically where they meet each other is very important. I went and rewatched that scene. Right after they go outside the bar, they save a dog. Haruka asks Kiryu, "Can we find some food for the dog because obviously he's hungry?" And Kiryu says no, he doesn't want to, saying that he feels bad, but he says the dog will be a burden if we take care of it because it will ask for food later on. Haruka fights back and she tells him, "No, we have to do this. We have to take care of this dog. I don't care what you say." Kiryu doesn't even acknowledge Haruka. Like, he calls her kid instead of calling her by her name. And then what I liked about that scene was she checks him, basically being like, "That's not my name. My name is Haruka, not Kid." I think this is the first time Kiryu felt challenged by anyone, let alone a little girl. You know what I mean? Like, a little kid challenged him. Like I said earlier, I believe that Haruka is the one who changed him for better. And this moment specifically is what started Kiryu to change and break down his walls and open up more. Not saying that Kiryu is selfish or anything like that, but throughout these years in the Yakuza series, I feel like he can never really do that with anyone except for Nishiki. You know what? Nishiki and Yumi are his two, and Kazuma is his father. He never really had that with anyone else. So like, I was really impressed with Haruka, the fact that she was able to like break down his walls and make him talk to her and respect her as a person as well. And that's kind of like where Kiryu's compassion comes from, you know? It's from his daughter. So overall, even though it's in third place of my favorite game, I would give this game an S rank. And even more so that they added extra scenes for Nishikiyama to supplement the storyline. The storyline in this game really pushes it. That's why I give it an S rank. My next favorite game in the series is Yakuza 7, Like a Dragon. I love that game a lot, and it surprised me how much I liked it. I went in with an open mind because I trusted RGG. I can't lie, I was a little bit, I don't want to say concerned, but I was like taken aback that they decided to put an RPG instead of a fighting game like they normally did. I'm so happy that they did, because like it just makes it so much better considering what Ichiban's character is. And they were able to capture the feel of the entire series within this game with a new character, a new plot line. I just appreciate it so much as an RGG fan, and I enjoyed the gameplay a lot. More so because Ichiban is a gamer and everything in his mind was the RPG gameplay. So no one else could see the RPG gameplay happening. It was just Ichiban. That's what made it so much more special. What I disliked about Yakuza 7, there are certain parts where they did not explain anything, where it was just like, we survived, it's fine now. I'll give an example. That boss fight in chapter 14 where the bomb blows up, and then the next chapter like, oh, everything's fine, don't worry about it. I don't like it when they do that. They do this a couple of times in the game. I understand maybe they're pressed for time and they just want to get on with the plot, but I feel like you still need to explain what the hell happened there. Show it. Don't just be like, oh, we got out of there just in time. Like, bro, come on. Like, you need to show me how they got out of the building, how they survived that. Favorite character? Ichiban. Ichiban easily. I loved him like 5 seconds within the game. I loved him. He's honestly such a good character. I was worried that before even this game came out, I was worried. I'm like, how are they gonna match Kiryu? You know what I mean? Giving him a send-off like they did in Yakuza 6, and considering how much of an icon he is to this story, I didn't think anyone could match the Dragon of Dojima, but I was wrong. Ichiban lives up to that title. He had a big shoe to fill and he filled it. I immediately fell in love with him because of his personality and also how realistic he was. And what I mean by that is Ichiban isn't your typical Yakuza member. He's way too nice. Like, he's honestly too nice. You see it at the beginning of the game where he helps with the guy with his money and everything, and he just pretends like, oh, yeah, I got it, don't worry, he paid me in full, but it's Ichiban paying for the guy. Like, he's too nice. He wants to make sure everyone in the world has a chance, is happy, and if there's a way that he can help, he will do it. Despite Ichiban having so many hardships, he always finds the good in every situation. That's what I noticed about him in the game. Like, something terrible will happen and he'll be like, hey, at least we got this. He really lives up to his name being number one, but also the hero of the story. He's honestly a hero. Oh, he never forgets anyone. And this is the moment that I knew that he was gonna be a really good protagonist, was when he met Psycho. That part where they're in the soapland and she's crying because she wants to figure out what happened to her boss. Everybody's like, oh, we can't help, we can't do anything, there's nothing we can do. And Ichiban's the only one who came up to her and was like, don't worry, you're not alone, and I'll help you. That made me tear up because the moment he said, you're not alone, I've just got so happy because, like, Ichiban has always been, you know, on his own, but he didn't let that stop him from helping others. I guess it kind of mirrors like how he knows what it feels like to be alone. He doesn't want others to feel that way. And that's why I love him. My favorite theme song in this game is called Light and Darkness, and it plays during the final boss fight with Masato. It expresses how he feels during this boss fight, kind of similar to how Somaya felt in Yakuza 6 with Destiny. Although for the entire game, I was honestly pissed off. You guys know that I hated Masato so much in this game. I was so mad at him. But when I was doing this boss fight, I felt sorry for him. Not like in a heartbreaking way, but it's just like, oh man, like damn, I shouldn't be fighting this dude. That's what it felt like to me. The theme song reflects how much pain this dude is in, because throughout the entire game, he's struggling with his own identity. Like how he perceives himself and also how others perceive him. It complements his character. He could have been good, you know, because Ichiban sees good in him, and he was talking about that throughout the entire game by the end of it as well. He has an outward appearance of someone who is good because he's a politician, he's there to help the people and everything like that. But on the inside, there's too much darkness in him that it confuses him to turn into this villain, which is kind of how a lot of villains in this series are. I also like that this is the name of the Japanese version of Yakuza 7. The title of Yakuza 7 is Yakuza Whereabouts of Light and Darkness, which I kind of wish they kept that in the original. Like, I would love it if they did that for the Western releases. I think it's more fitting, you know? And this moves on to my favorite boss fight. This was hard, considering Majima and Saejima were boss fights in it, and I enjoyed that boss fight a lot. But I think Kiryu's boss fight is probably my favorite one, and it's a lot of people's favorite as well because it stands out a lot. And it's not just because it's Kiryu, it's because of what the boss represents. Kiryu is the dragon, and he is the main dragon of the entire series. And he was also trying to teach Ichiban something, because Ichiban lost it there. He was losing his true meaning of his whole journey. Kiryu knows what it means to lose yourself. He's experienced that not only with himself, but other people who are close to him. For example, Nishikiyama is one of them. He wanted to make sure Ichiban was on the right path before he helped him, and he was able to do that. It's also his way of passing the torch of him being the dragon of Dojima to the rock bottom of Yokohama to Ichiban being the next dragon. I really liked it because they did it the coolest way ever, where they had the cutscene of Kiryu's dragon basically just punching into Ichiban and then knocking him out. I thought that was the coolest way of passing the torch onto Ichiban. It's very sentimental, very symbolic. And I guess in a way, maybe I'm reading too much into this, but we all know that the Japanese voice actor for Nishikiyama is the same for Ichiban. And Nishikisatsu, like I mentioned, is the koi, which was trying to become the dragon. You look at Ichiban's dragon, it's a dragon fish, which I think is very fitting, you know? So in a way, it's kind of like a redemption for Nishikiyama's character. That's kind of the way I see it. I know that's like not really canon, but that's my head canon that Nishikiyama got his redemption. So what part stood out to me in Yakuza 7 was Kiryu's return. I think that's pretty obvious. I know it kind of takes away from Ichiban being the main character and everything, but my reaction, if it showed anything, how much I was crying during that scene, I got super emotional. Not only because it's Kiryu, but the fact that like he's okay. You know, I even said that, like, I was so happy. I did not expect him to be there. Honestly, I really didn't. All I expected was to hear about Kiryu, like Majima talking about him, or Saejima, something like that. I didn't expect him to be physically there in the game. I never expected that. At most, to be a sub-story. I didn't think he was going to be in the main plot line. That's what took me aback, and that's why I started crying. Everything that happened to him, it just hit me. I'm just like, oh my god, he's okay. And even though it kind of discounts the ending of Yakuza 6, I still appreciate him being there, staying true to his characters, helping the people he cared about so much. His son, his friends, being there for them and just helping them. So that's why I love that moment so much. It kind of like represents what Ichiban is, to help others, especially when they're in their darkest moments. Kiryu was that for the entire series, and it's nice that Ichiban mirrors that as well. So out of everything, I would have to give this game an A rank. Again, I would give it S tier if they didn't like kind of like cheap out with certain scenes where they didn't explain it fully. But it's such a good game. If you haven't played it, please give it a chance. There's a lot of people in the community who didn't want to play it because it didn't feel like a Yakuza game. You guys are dead wrong. It's 100% a Yakuza game. The gameplay's just different. That's it. Moving on to the next game in my ranking, it is Yakuza 2. Yakuza Kiwami 2 to be exact. What did I like about this game? Now, this may be corny of me to say, but there's a reason, okay? My favorite part of this game was Kiryu's relationship with Kaoru. And it's not exactly because, oh, it's a romance, Kiryu gets a girlfriend. It's not because of that, I swear. It's cute, but that's not the real reason. This is the first time I've seen Kiryu feel safe and vulnerable to another person who wasn't Yumi. Kiryu is definitely the type of person who is closed off and finds it very hard to open up to other people, which I mentioned before. I was honestly so surprised how he reacted towards Kaoru, because I'm like, that's not Kiryu, like he doesn't act like that. It's interesting how he felt so comfortable with her, let alone it takes him even a long time to get comfortable when he's making friends with people, you know what I mean? He was willing to take chances with Kaoru rather than playing it safe. He helped her, shared personal moments with her, and then even kissed her when they were running away. My guy grabbed her and kissed her, and I was just like, what is happening? He has been through so much in his life, and it made me so happy that he was able to feel safe with someone. You know, I know he's not like, everybody doesn't really like the ship of him and Kaoru. They prefer Yumi and whatever. That's fine. But honestly, I was just so happy because I'm like, oh my god, he found happiness with someone. He kind of doesn't care Like, if it's gonna cost him something, he'll just do it. I was so proud of him for that. And I know there's a huge joke that everyone's like, oh, Kiryu's a virgin, he doesn't know what sex is, blah, blah, blah. And I know the developers mentioned they personally believe Kiryu is a virgin. My headcanon is, I believe that too, but also I think this dude he's either asexual or demisexual. He wants to make a strong relationship first before he kind of gets physical with them. It makes Kaoru's relationship with Kiryu that much more meaningful because he sees something in her. You know what I mean? Aside from like, oh, she's the hot girl, like let's like romance her. He sees something with her, and that's what makes him more beautiful, you know? The ending where they're about to die kind of sticks with me, even though I'm gonna talk about it a little bit later, but even though I found it a little bit stupid, he was willing to be like, fuck it, I'ma die, it's fine, at least I have you. Once again, Kiryu being vulnerable, it's very rare to see him like that, and I appreciate that they showed it in this game again. What I dislike should be obvious, it's the freaking ending. I was mad during the last video. I really wish the ending wasn't the way it was. And it wasn't even about Ryuji. It was more so what was happening before Ryuji's boss fight. The fact that there were so many people betraying everybody, like, oh my, it was getting tiring. Like, this dude betrays you, then this dude betrays you. Wait a second, he betrays that other dude. And it's just like, why? And then adding on top of that, my man Kiryu turns his back on the guy who has the gun and then gets shot in the back. That pissed me off. The worst part of it all was Terada. Terada confused me because he betrays Kiryu, but then in the last second helps him. What is the point of that? I don't understand. I feel like that could have been written better because he sets the bomb off to help him, but then it turns out the bomb was fake the entire time. I don't mind impending doom in storylines, but there was so much flip-flopping around that it kind of lost its meaning by the end of it, you know what I mean? And I feel like it's such a cheap way to trick us as the player to feel like our characters are in serious danger. Obviously, I know Kiryu's not gonna die, he's the main character of this whole thing. It just kind of cheapens, I don't know, Ryuji's death in a way, because my man could have been saved. He didn't have to like die like that. What I'm saying was there's no consequences and it's kind of disappointing. All right, moving on to my favorite character. Should be very obvious. It's a lot of other people's favorite character. It's Ryuji. Wish he did not have to die. I really wish he didn't die. He's such a good character. Had so much potential for becoming an ally and friend to Kiryu later on in the games, because I honestly could see him like still become a villain, but later on he turns into an ally and helps Kiryu along the way. Because even though Ryuji has a lot of arrogance towards him, my man is just another guy who suffered, you know, and he didn't have to suffer. He could have gotten help. He was just trying to find a way for others to respect him. Again, it's kind of like Nishikiyama once again. And he felt like the only way he could achieve that was to fight the person he respected the most, which was Kiryu. Ironically, it seems like Kiryu's always attracting the same kind of character where they're always like, respect him, but they want to fight him and beat him. Ryuji is a dragon. He's a very strong dragon. He's just unfortunately a misguided one. There's a lot of anger in him, a jealousy, and it proves it that he's always trying to prove himself, right? Ironically, even though Ryuji has done a lot of scummy things, he never did anything cheap towards Kiryu. Like, he had so many chances to kill him and beat him. Example, when Haruka got kidnapped, but he didn't take that chance. He wanted to wait until he was on equal grounds with Kiryu to fight with him. And we can see that in the last chapter, they both got shot. Someone mentioned in the comments their bullet wounds are mirroring each other. So it's like on one side for Ryuji and the other for Kiryu. I like that. Symbolism. Also, I want to shout out to Masumi-san for his fantastic voice acting for Ryuji. Like, his voice is so good. I loved it. My favorite theme of this game would be a scattered moment, which is the boss theme that plays over Ryuji's boss. I'm a sucker for this theme because it plays, not only does it feature string instruments, it has a piano in it. So, oh god, it's so good. Whenever I hear a theme song that has either of those instruments, I immediately love it. This has both, so that's like a double. And as I described Ryuji in the last question, I feel like this theme fits him perfectly to describe him as a character too. This was his final moment to prove his worth, even though he already knew he lost because he's on the verge of death, which why it makes it so sad, and it sounds sad with the piano. And I feel like it represents how he was hoping to at least show his worth to the one person he looked up to, and that's Kiryu. At least Kiryu will know that he was a worthy opponent. That's the way this theme song feels to me. Also, this may be me only, but I also sense like unfairness in this theme as well, because it's clear that it's sad, and I remember reading the comments of my Let's Play, people were mentioning how a lot of other boss themes have like heavy guitars or there's like heavy tones to it. This one doesn't. It's very light and very somber to it. I just really wish he didn't have to die. Like, why? He didn't have to die. He really could have earned his validation as a dragon if he wanted to. Just didn't need to die like this. Like, imagine he wasn't shot. Kiryu and him weren't shot. They fought in equal grounds, and then he proved himself to Kiryu, and then that's when they became friends. Like, oh my god, so much potential. To go on with this, my favorite boss fight is Ryuji's boss fight. I know it's kind of cheaping out, because I used weapons when I was fighting him. But you guys know that I'm not good at playing these games. That's kind of why. But I genuinely felt fear fighting this man because he's someone who can match Kiryu, clearly, you know, with his fighting style and his drive to win. I was afraid because whenever he was landing a hit on Kiryu, like when he did his special moves, the whole fucking screen was shaking. That's how strong this guy is. That's what made him terrifying. And there are so many antagonists where I felt like, oh, I'm gonna fucking kill this guy, I hate this guy. I didn't feel that with Ryuji. I felt, I don't know, respect, and would be like, oh, this guy's like actually good at fighting, worthy opponent, but he's kind of scary. Also, I like that they put this boss battle in a confined space to make it more difficult because it's supposed to show symbolism of how both of them are struggling to survive. You know, they're in a tight situation. The bomb's going off in the background. They can't escape. They're dying because they're both shot. It just shows that they're just struggling to survive here. And as ridiculous as the ending was, it's the one thing that stood out to me, specifically Ryuji. Like I said, he didn't have to save Kiryu, but he did. He didn't have to take those bullets, but he did. That's why it's such a shame that he died. I feel like, oh man, I don't know. You can tell that this man has nothing to lose. He's just really sad. I don't want to say he didn't have a lot of guidance. I mean, my man was like stealing people's pants in Yakuza 0, so like that could say a lot about him. But it's just sad how he ended up this way is what I'm trying to say. And that's why it stood out to me when he was just like, I'm gonna sacrifice myself because I know Kiryu is on the verge of dying. I might as well just do it too and just prove myself here and now. That's what really stood out to me. Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to give this a B rank. B rank. I would give it higher, but again, with the ending, and I know the Jinguwa was like part of this too. That was a little bit messy too. I don't know. I just felt like certain plot lines, especially the ending, we didn't need the betrayal upon betrayal. We didn't need that. Alright, moving on to the next game, and it is Yakuza 3. I know this game is a bit slow at start, but what I really liked about this game was seeing Kiryu be a dad, be a family man for the game. This is the moment he realizes this is what he wants in his life, to be a family man. That's his end goal, because Kiryu was lost after what happened with Yumi and Nishikiyama in the first game. He really didn't know what he wanted to do, what he wanted in life after the Yakuza. He was struggling to find that. But in 3, he realizes what he wants is a family and to take care of these kids. Even though he didn't confront his Yakuza past, I feel proud of him wanting to start an orphanage and give love to children who don't have that in his life, because obviously it's mirroring his childhood in the orphanage. So once again, this brings around to why Kiryu is such a wholesome guy. What I didn't like about this game, I know this gameplay is dated, it was hard to get a grasp on that, but it was mainly the balance of the storyline. We played too much of Dad's Simulator to get into the plot. Like it took way too long to get into the main plot of the Yakuza storyline, which was more interesting for the game. So like, I really wish that was balanced out more. Maybe not, what was it, 3 or 4 chapters of Dad's Simulator. Let's do more of the Yakuza part. So my favorite character in this game is Mine. RGG is very good at making realistic villains. Villains that can be redeemed in the end, but then die. Once again, he's another character that I wish that didn't have to die. He had so much potential becoming ally, a friend, he wasn't really evil. My guy wasn't really evil. He just had this evil persona, but he wasn't bad. Like, compared to the other antagonists in the series, he's pretty tame. You know what I mean? It's just sad because Daigo believed in him. And when Mine realized that Daigo was his true friend who truly cared about him, I honestly think he felt like he couldn't face him anymore. And the only way he could redeem himself was just by killing Anderson and killing himself. I don't mean to bring it up again. It reminds me of Nishikiyama. Once again, the parallels with Daigo and Mine against Kiryu and Nishikiyama. He felt the only way to save his friend and his brother and to look up to him and to say sorry to him was to off himself, but also take away the person who was trying to hurt him. And honestly, I know Mine was shot, but realistically, how strong that dude was, he could have just picked up Anderson and thrown him off the building. He did not need to go with him. That pissed me off so much because I didn't want him to die. I liked him. Now this moves on to my favorite theme song, and it is Fly. There are two moments that this theme song plays, and they're very important moments within the storyline. One, when Rikia dies, and the other when you fight Mine. I feel like these characters are very important to the plotline because these are characters that sacrifice themselves for the people that they care about. Rikia sacrificing himself so that he can protect his family, but also Kiryu because he looks up to him as a brother. And then you look on the other side, Mine sacrificing himself because he sees Daigo as his brother, but also wanting to protect him so that he doesn't hurt the Tojo clan, make it worse for Daigo, or even try to kill him. So he decides to sacrifice himself. Ironically, it's called Fly because my man goes off the building, but you know. My favorite boss fight. It is Rikia's boss fight. It's for a different reason other than just the boss fight. His reaction towards Kiryu after we fight him, after you beat him, Rikia's character changes. He grows, and I was annoyed at him at first, but then immediately I loved him because he acted like a little brother towards Kiryu and calling him Anaki and everything like that, even though Kiryu was like, please don't do that. And it's sweet because the entire Ryudo family ends up loving Kiryu as well, and then they take him in and treat him like they're his own brother, even though Kiryu was like, I'm not the Yakuza anymore, please don't call me that. They still treated him like family. There was something different about Rikia as well. Like I mentioned before, Kiryu has a hard time opening up to people. Became easily attached to Rikia, opened up with him, and became friends with him very fast. So like, that shows that Kiryu really saw something in Rikia. Not only as a friend, but as a brother, even though he kept saying, don't call me that. And that's why it was so heartbreaking when he died and he sacrificed himself. I really appreciate Kuroda-san's voice acting for that moment because Kiryu's scream when Rikia dies is the most heartbreaking thing I've fucking heard in my life. That voice acting was just incredible for that entire scene, and it just cements that Rikia meant so much to him as a brother. What stood out for me in Yakuza 3 was Daigo asking if Mine was okay. Like, after Daigo woke up, after the boss battle, that moment was the reason why I liked Mine so much. It's because, like I said, he always wanted to be accepted, and he was having a hard time finding people who genuinely cared about him, who didn't want to use him for his money, his power, whatever. He wanted someone who genuinely cared about him. That is really relatable in real life. I mean, I think that's what a lot of people want in life, is just for people to like them, to appreciate them, to love them, to not use them, you know, find someone who genuinely cares about you. And in the Yakuza world, at least from the stories that they were telling in these games, it's very hard to find people like that because there's always someone who's willing to betray you, who's willing to kill you if it means they can climb higher in the ranks, get money, or something in return. I appreciate RGG showing the humane side of all of these characters. That is why that moment right there, that just one question Daigo asks, goes a long way for the rest of the story, you know what I mean? Because these guys are just human in the end. And it's easy to lose yourself when you're part of a gang, you know? You're doing horrible things, murdering people, doing illegal stuff. But there are people who genuinely are not evil, and like I mentioned throughout all my Let's Play, people are attracted to joining gangs because they want a family. It's not because they want to kill someone, they want money, like, it's not about that. They just want family. And I definitely see Mine had it, but he didn't realize that he had it. So out of everything with this game, I'm gonna give Yakuza 3 a B rank. Again, I know the gameplay is a little bit dated, but it's mainly because of how slow everything progressed. That's why I gave it lower. And it's still my favorite because, again, this brings light to certain characters that have great character development. Daigo, one of them, great character development. Also Kiryu, with his relationship with Rikia. And Kuroda's voice acting. I gotta say that. It's one of the top tier things in this game. Next on, we're moving to is Yakuza 5. I really like the story of this game because it splits up into different point of views with my favorite characters, specifically with Haruka, because this is the first time she gets her own chapter. Real point of view, like we get to hear her thoughts, what she thinks about what's going on. And we never really got that in the other games because it would just be Kiryu asking her questions. We never got to hear what she thinks in her head. So I really like that Haruka was included in this. Also, previous characters like Saejima, Akiyama, of course, I love Akiyama. They're also more rounded characters in this game, I believe, especially Saejima, which I'll get into a little bit later when I talk about Yakuza 4. They improved the storytelling with these characters, and I feel like I can appreciate Saijima's like blow up in this game. Like I genuinely loved his character in this freaking game. Like his storyline was so good. Even though it was stupid that he was fighting a bear, that's so ridiculous, I still liked it. Kiryu's character development, because he finally faces his past, his Yakuza past. Instead of running away, this is the moment he realized he has to do this. And we also get a darker version of Kiryu, which I like, because we always get the wholesome, the emotional guy, someone who's suffering, but we never get the darker version of Kiryu. And I know we always joke about Kiryu never killed anyone, but I don't know if anyone realizes this. This is the moment Kiryu almost killed someone in his chapter. He broke in this game. And I loved seeing this because, again, this is the moment I was waiting for. Kiryu had to fall into rock bottom in order to face his past, and this is the game that shows it. So what I disliked about Yakuza 5, I can't lie, it is kind of long. I guess it's because like I was trying to let's play it before Yakuza 7 came out. I feel like also it had a hard time balancing out each chapter. Specifically, Akiyama and Haruka's chapters. I hated that they were put together because it was so short for both of them, you know what I mean? I know maybe people don't really care, but I enjoyed Haruka's chapter. I wish it was longer. Also, Akiyama, because Akiyama was like one of my favorite characters. I really wish he had a longer, screen time with him. It was just really unbalanced because like I know other characters, for example, Kiryu had more important things to do. Also Saejima. But Akiyama also had important things. Like, look at the ending of the game. If it wasn't for Akiyama, the Tojo, Omi, they all wouldn't come together and help. So we gotta give credit to this man. My favorite character in this game is gotta be Daigo. I'm gonna explain why in a minute, but just know that Daigo's my favorite in Yakuza 5. My favorite theme song, I don't know if this counts as a theme song, but it's so much more. The song that Haruka sings in her chapter. Is this cheating? Because like the entire time that I was playing this game, this song was stuck in my head. Like, when I was off camera, I was just constantly singing it. It's too good. I don't know. I love it. There's a lot of good theme songs in this game, but like, so much more is a good battle theme. Like, I don't know. Because she battles the other people on stage with this song. I also think it's more wholesome if you go to the karaoke with Kiryu and Haruka. They're just singing this song together. If you've seen that video where like Kiryu turns into an air traffic controller where he's just waving his arms about but cheering for Haruka, it's the sweetest thing, but it looks so stupid because of what he's doing in the background. So my favorite boss fight in this game is Kiryu versus the entire Tojo clan. I don't know if this counts. Him fighting all of the Yakuza in the Tojo clan was amazing. And it's not only just because he was fighting it, just because of what represents too. This is the moment Kiryu knew he had to confront his past. What better way than to fight the entire clan, you know what I mean? It may be ridiculous because at one point some dude brings in an RPG and then launches it at Kiryu. That was kind of stupid, but regardless of that, it was so cool to see him fight everybody, and it kind of shows this is the only way Kiryu can be free. It's gonna be a struggle, it's gonna be hard, and it's gonna be difficult, but Kiryu has to basically fight through all of this in order to free himself, which is how it leads into Yakuza 6. Running was never the answer for him. You know, he has to go through all of these terrible things in order to be free. Also, what to say during that moment too, after he fights everybody at the Tojo, he was like, no, we're not fighting. I want to fight you in a respectable manner. That's the moment I loved what to say. He was just kind of like, I respect you too much. You're the dragon of Dojima. I'm not gonna cheap out. It's kind of like how I saw Ryuji. He wanted to fight him on equal grounds, which I really appreciate with him. And like I said earlier, this is the moment that we almost lost Kiryu because he almost murdered a man. He could have done it. The Kiryu we all knew and loved was still in there, so his darkness never took over. It could have. He could have ended like Mine, Nishikiyama, like all these people, but Kiryu didn't. He's still Kiryu, and I'm glad that he didn't take that step to kill someone. So, what part stood out to me? It was Daigo's character arc throughout this entire game. I love Daigo a lot. Should not be a surprise, but I felt bad for him for the entire series because, like I mentioned earlier, it's 100% clear Daigo doesn't want to be the leader of the Tojo clan. He doesn't even want to do anything with the Yakuza. He's like Kiryu, like I said. I also felt sorry for him because he was always alone. Like, I didn't think about it during the games, but when I look back at it, Daigo doesn't really have a lot of friends. He doesn't have a lot of people he can really rely on. Sure, there's Majima and Saejima and Kashiwagi. Like, all these people, I get it, but they can't exactly help him like Kiryu could. Even though we didn't see the whole picture, like his point of view of everything, it's not hard to understand why Daigo gets desperate in these games, you know? To make sure that the Tojo is held together, which is why he makes a lot of ridiculous decisions throughout the storylines, but it's not hard to see why he's doing it. This is the first time we see him stand up for himself since the beginning of 2, where he becomes the chairman. He stands up to himself and proves that Daigo can still do this. Even though he's struggling, you know, I got upset that he got shot in the process of standing up for himself. He was still worthy of the title of chairman. But I guess it also shows that Daigo can't do this alone either. He does need help, and it's okay to ask for help. Daigo was struggling to ask for help. That's why he went all the way to look for Kiryu at the beginning of the game to ask for help, and Kiryu didn't give it to him. You can see how upset he was because he's just like, damn it, I don't know what to do. Out of everything, however, I would rank this game an A rank. I give it a high rank, surprisingly, even though it's really low on my list. It's still a really good game. Even the introduction of Shinoda, he's a really funny character, but just having more character development for the long-standing characters like Daigo, Haruka, and Saejima, it's really nice to see. There was also really good boss fights aside from the main boss. Like that fight with Majima and Saejima was really good, you know? I enjoyed it. Kiryu's, you know, character changing, becoming very dark. I love that too. It's like all of these moments are very important to the story, so that's why it's I give it a ranking of an A. It's good. You gotta play it. I just wish I had more time to play like it properly. That's the only thing. It was just really long. I guess that's why it's lower on my list. It's a little too long for me, but I still enjoyed it. Now leads us to the final game in the series and my least favorite, Yakuza 4. I hate to put this game last considering I like the game. Like, I enjoyed playing it, and it also features one of my favorite characters in the game. So it kind of sucks that I have to put it last. I enjoyed the change of pace in this game because, again, this is the first game where they're introducing multiple point of views with new characters as well. We're not just playing as Kiryu like we have for the first couple of games. I also like that there was different perspectives from characters that were not part of the Yakuza clan. For example, Akiyama and Tanimura. I like that they did that because we get a fresher perspective because we were always with the Yakuza, and I know that's the whole point of this freaking series, but it's nice to see different points of view of how people perceive the Yakuza outside of the clan. I was also looking forward to this game because of Saejima and hearing about him in Yakuza 0. It's also the backstory of Majima, because I didn't understand what was happening with him, why he was being punished, so that's why I was looking forward to playing this game, to learn about Majima's backstory, but also to learn about his brother, Saejima. What I disliked about this game? Oh boy, there's a lot that I want to talk about. plot holes, inconsistency, and poorly written things are the main problems with this game, which is why it's my least favorite. It just felt like the story was gonna go one way, but then immediately in the last second it turns into a different way. I'll give an example. During Tanimura's chapter, at the ending there, that was a huge mess. I'm sorry, I even mentioned that in the video. There's no payoff towards what was happening. Like I said earlier, if you're gonna have impending doom in your storyline, you either have to follow through with it or there has to be something of equal measure. Doesn't mean someone has to die, but there has to be a consequence to it. Of course it would be extremely horrible if the family in the restaurant got murdered, but if you're implying that they got shot, go through with it. Because it pissed me off that nothing happened, you know, instead the police officer shot himself, and that was stupid. Adding on top of that, how many times did people fake their deaths during this game? The rubber bullet storyline honestly pissed me off a lot. I did not like that. Like, I understood it for Saijima's storyline, like the restaurant scene, the reason why he got in jail. That part makes sense to me, but it kept coming back where people just kept using rubber bullets and it was really annoying. Also, thinking that Akiyama almost fucking died at the end of the game really pissed me off, but I do appreciate that moment because it was a real bullet, and also the thing that saved him was the thing that saved his life in general, which is the money that he got when the Millennium Tower blew up in the first game. So that symbolism, that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. If you're gonna have impending, you have it pay off, and it paid off because it brings back full circle with Akiyama's character, so it makes sense for him. Everything else with the rubber bullets and everything, that's so stupid. I didn't like that. Another thing that pissed me off was Saijima's storyline, and I got a lot of shit for this in the comments section. People were saying I didn't understand Saijima's character, or I didn't understand why they wrote the way that they did. I just want to preface, I do understand. I understand why they did it. It's the scene with the Morning Glory moment where Saejima ends up on top of Haruka and he's kind of like, oh god, a girl's under me and whatever. That part really rubbed me the wrong way because not only is it Haruka, she's a fucking child, but Kiryu's reaction to everything was so fucking weird. And I know that they were trying to show that Saejima hasn't had real human contact in 20 plus years, let alone see someone of the opposite sex. I understand that, and they were also trying to show that Kiryu understand that too because he was in prison as well. But, my dude, why make it Haruka? Also, why didn't Kiryu try to protect his own daughter? I know he didn't think Saejima was gonna do anything, and obviously I didn't think he was gonna act upon those instincts as well. It's just weird that Kiryu didn't try to step in, or anything like that, you know? That's the part that made me really uncomfortable. They kind of just brushed it off like it was nothing. And I feel like you can express this moment in a different way. That's just the way I see it. And it sucks because that was my first impression of Saejima. I didn't want that to be my first impression. And it kind of took away from the rest of the story because I don't know if you guys could notice, like I was kind of like uncomfortable playing the rest of Saejima's chapter because I was like, oh, what the hell? That's why I appreciate how much they fixed it in Yakuza 5. His entire character arc was very improved in that game, and that's why I ended up loving Saejima. But it's just that whole thing was just like, oh, I didn't like that. Okay, this should be very obvious who my favorite character is. It's Akiyama. It didn't take me too long to fall in love with this character since he's so lovable. He has like a himbo energy personality. Like he's really fucking dumb, but he's really sweet. You know what I mean? I love him. He's kind of, ironically, he's kind of like a perfect mix of Kiryu and Majima. What I mean by that is the wholesomeness of Kiryu, but also like the craziness of Majima, because Akiyama does some really questionable things, but he's not to the extreme of like how Majima is as the mad dog. So that's why I consider him like the mix of those two, which is why I love him, because he's both my favorite characters, you know what I mean? So it's great. And he's also someone who's neutral. He's not a Yakuza member or anything like that. He's an outside party looking in. He's a huge idiot, but somehow he's very smart. Like I said this so many times during the games, he could be a detective if he wasn't a loan shark, like a finance loan shark guy. He could be a detective if he really wanted to, because you could really rely on Akiyama to get things done throughout the storyline, which is what I really liked about him. And of course his gameplay is so much fun. He's all leg, he just kicks everybody and it's great. Also, Akiyama has a really sweet singing voice. You go to karaoke with him, it's so good. I love listening to him sing Pure Love and Kamurocho. It's just perfect. So my favorite theme in Yakuza 4 would be Rebellions. This theme just feels really cool, like something out of an 80s action movie, and at the same time it works well for like all the characters that we're playing in this game. Whenever especially the brass parts that come onto the theme song, that's the best part. I think it just fits also whenever Kiryu gets into a fight or Akiyama gets into a fight. I don't know, it just works really well. One of my favorite battle themes, next to Sotenbori's battle theme, that's one of my favorites. My favorite boss fight in this game is Kiryu versus Akiyama and Tanimura. I knew eventually everyone was gonna have to meet up, right? And Kiryu is obviously a badass, so the fact that he got to fight two main characters of the story was great. I love that they did that for him and for the plot's sake, because like I said, everybody has to meet up at some point, but this is one of the best ways that the characters could meet. They have to fight each other. I was waiting for this moment and it didn't disappoint me. The only thing that was scary was fighting Akiyama, because like I said, he's all leg and it's scary to fight that guy, so Tanimura wasn't bad to face, just Akiyama. He didn't give me a chance. What stood out to me in this game, and I think I've talked about Daigo so much, but it's the moment Kiryu confronted Daigo. Like I said, I feel sorry for Daigo. This entire series, he's constantly lost and not sure what to do and lonely. And when he showed up at the ending, I was so pissed off. Like, you guys know that. I was so disappointed in Daigo because I was like, what the fuck is he doing? I couldn't believe that he would do something so stupid to like betray the Tojo clan, you know what I mean? But after I finished the game, I realized this was the moment Daigo was so desperate and so lost that he didn't know what to do, and he thought this was the only way he could do it. Even though Kiryu was running still, like he hasn't confronted his past, he was still willing to help Daigo. Daigo was the reason Kiryu started to look back. This is the moment where he's like, wait a second, maybe I shouldn't do this. Because again, in Yakuza 5, Daigo comes to him again. I guess that's why I appreciate Daigo and Kiryu's relationship, because they helped each other heal. Kiryu helped him lead, while Daigo helped Kiryu confront his past and realize his true purpose in life. Also, someone mentioned in the comments, during the boss fight with Daigo, he was copying Kiryu's moves, which I think is really cool because it shows how much Daigo loves and respects Kiryu a lot, even though he's mirroring his moves, but it's nice to see that's where he gets his inspiration from. His dad. So, for Yakuza 4, I unfortunately am gonna have to give this game a C, just because of the plot line. Like, I love this game because of the characters and like what was happening, but it was so messy. The storyline was so freaking messy. It sucks that I have to give it a lower score, but that's what I'm gonna give it, a C. So I don't know if you guys can hear my voice is kind of going out because I've been talking for so long, but I hope you guys enjoyed my tier list video, and I hope that kind of answers your questions that you have. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to answer everything in full detail in this video because there's a lot of questions that have been going around. So if you have a question about anything in the game, I'm going to try to answer all of your questions in the comments, but I would like to hear what you guys think. Like give me your tier list for the Yakuza series. And if you want to include Judge Eyes as well, or Judgment, you can go ahead and do that if you want. So once again, thank you guys so much for listening to me ramble. I'm so passionate about the Yakuza series. Like, honestly, it's one of my favorite that I'm literally considering getting a tattoo inspired by the Yakuza series in the future. Like, you guys, if you guys heard, like, I have a bunch of video games that I want to get tattoos for. I'm just trying to figure out a way that I could do it. But that's how much these games mean to me, and I'm really glad that I played them on the channel and shared my experience with you guys, had discussions with you guys, also be a part of this community. I appreciate it a lot. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you guys enjoyed it, remember to leave a like. Let me know in the comments your tier list for the Yakuza games. And be sure to subscribe and hit the bell button, because whenever RGG makes another Yakuza game or whatever game they're gonna make, I will be playing it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye!